which is an architectural salvage yard run by a guy called John. I've never been to their salvage yard, never been.
Drew Pritchard's story starts in the quiet town of Conwy, North Wales, where he was born in 1970. His childhood was far from glamorous, his family lived simply, and money was often tight. But even as a child, Drew had a curious mind and a love for finding hidden treasures. While most children were busy playing games, Drew spent hours exploring junkyards, scrapyards, and abandoned places. He saw beauty in broken things that others had already given up on. His father, a car mechanic, often brought home old parts and scrap materials, and young Drew would take them apart, trying to understand how they worked. That curiosity slowly became an obsession, not just for fixing things, but for restoring life to forgotten objects. He believed that everything, no matter how damaged, deserved a second chance. By his teenage years, Drew had started collecting bits of furniture, signs, and antiques from local markets. He didn't have much money, so he often traded or bartered instead of buying. But his eye for detail was sharp. He could spot value in things others thought were worthless. Teachers and neighbors soon noticed his passion, though few understood how far it would take him. Drew wasn't interested in fame or luxury. He was driven by a deeper desire, the joy of rescuing history and giving it new life. That small-town boy with dusty hands and a wild dream was slowly shaping his destiny, one rusty piece at a time. As Drew grew older, his talent for restoration turned into a livelihood. He began working for local builders, learning how to repair old houses and furniture. In his early 20s, he started trading small antiques from the back of his van, traveling across Wales and England. He would buy damaged or discarded pieces, restore them carefully, and then sell them to collectors or interior designers. What started as a side hobby slowly grew into a thriving business. Drew had an unmatched ability to see potential where others saw junk. Whether it was a broken lamp, a faded mirror, or a forgotten church door, he could imagine how it would look after restoration. His dedication and work ethic soon paid off. By the late 1990s, Drew opened his own antique restoration shop called Drew Pritchard Antiques. It wasn't fancy, but it was filled with character and charm. People started to recognize him as a true craftsman, someone who respected history and knew how to preserve it. Clients loved his honesty and eye for authenticity. He wasn't just selling furniture. He was selling stories, memories, and a piece of the past. Each item in his collection had a history, and Drew made sure to tell it. During this time, he also met his future wife, Rebecca. She shared his love for adventure and antiques, and together they became a strong team. Their partnership, both in life and business, would later become a key part of Drew's success story. From the dusty barns of Wales to grand English estates, Drew was climbing his way to success, one find at a time. But as with many success stories, fame and fortune were just around the corner, and they would change everything. In 2011, Pritchard's life took a dramatic turn when he became the star of the television series Salvage Hunters. The show followed him as he traveled across Britain and Europe in search of rare and forgotten antiques. Audiences instantly fell in love with Drew's passion, wit, and unique personality. He wasn't just buying old things, he was rescuing pieces of history. His deep respect for craftsmanship and his sharp business instincts made every episode exciting. With Rebecca managing the business side and his friend T helping on the road, Salvage Hunters became a massive hit. Millions of viewers tuned in to watch Drew negotiate deals, restore items, and bring beauty back to life. The success of the show transformed Drew from a local antique dealer into a national celebrity. His shop became a destination for designers, collectors, and fans from around the world. People admired his honesty and his ability to find beauty in the most unexpected places. He inspired many to see value in restoration and to think twice before throwing something away. But fame, as always, comes with its own price. The once quiet man from North Wales was now living under the spotlight. Every decision, every relationship, and every deal became public news. The attention was exciting at first, but it slowly began to create cracks in his personal life. Behind the scenes, Drew was struggling to balance his growing fame with his private world. Success brought Drew money, recognition, and influence, but it also brought immense pressure. The demands of television filming, running a business, and keeping his personal life stable began to take a toll. Drew and Rebecca's marriage, once built on shared passion and trust, started facing difficulties. Constant travel, long filming days, and public attention strained their relationship. Despite trying to keep things private, rumors and gossip began to spread. The media often painted Drew as a man too focused on his work, too obsessed with his next big find to notice the cracks forming at home. In 2017, their marriage came to an end. The divorce was public and painful, marking a turning point in Drew's life. Rebecca left both the marriage and the show, and fans immediately noticed the change. Salvage Hunters continued, but something was different. Drew's usual spark seemed dimmer. Behind his confident smile, he was carrying the weight of personal loss. He had built his entire life around restoration, but now he found himself unable to fix what mattered most: his family. For a man who believed everything broken could be repaired, this realization was heartbreaking. After the divorce, Drew focused even harder on his work, trying to fill the void. He continued buying and selling antiques, expanding his business, and keeping Salvage Hunters running. But inside, he was battling exhaustion and loneliness. Fame had given him everything he once dreamed of, yet taken away his peace of mind. It was a silent tragedy unfolding behind the camera. By the early 2020s, Drew's world began to slow down. The industry was changing, fewer people were investing in antiques, and the television audience was moving toward new trends. Drew continued, working tirelessly, but the spark that once drove him began to fade. Years of pressure, travel, and emotional struggle had left their mark. He started reflecting more deeply on his life, questioning whether all his success had truly made him happy. His home, once filled with treasures and laughter, now felt empty. Friends close to him noticed that Drew had become quieter and more reserved. He spent long hours alone in his workshop, repairing items that reminded him of the past. Every scratch and crack told a story, not just of the item, but of his own journey. In 2024, Drew made a decision that shocked his fans and friends alike. He announced that he would be selling his entire private collection, the antiques he had gathered over a lifetime. To many, it seemed like just another business move, but those who knew him understood it was something much deeper. It wasn't just about selling objects. It was about letting go. That auction represented the closing of a long chapter in Drew's life. Each piece that went under the hammer carried a memory of places he'd been, people he'd met, and lessons he'd learned. Watching those items leave his hands was painful, but also freeing. It was as if he was finally saying goodbye to the man he used to be, the ambitious restorer, the TV star, the husband, the dreamer. For Drew, this wasn't the end of his story, but a new beginning, one without fame or noise, just peace and simplicity. The 2024 auction marked one of the most emotional moments in Drew Pritchard's life. Fans who attended described it as bittersweet, a mix of sadness and admiration. Drew stood quietly as the items he had loved and restored were sold to new owners. Some of them fetched huge prices, while others sold for almost nothing. But the money didn't matter to him anymore. What mattered was closure. For the first time in years, Drew wasn't chasing success or trying to prove himself. He was simply ready to move on. After the sale, Drew stepped back from the public eye. He spent more time in nature, traveling quietly across the countryside, far from cameras and attention. Those who met him said he seemed calmer, older, wiser, and more peaceful. He no longer needed the thrill of a big deal or the praise of television audiences. Instead, he found happiness in the simple things, restoring a small item for pleasure, not profit, walking by the sea, or enjoying a quiet evening with close friends. For someone who had spent decades surrounded by noise and negotiation, silence became his most valuable treasure. This change in Drew's life touched many of his fans. People admired his courage to walk away from fame and rebuild himself from the inside out. It reminded everyone that even those who seem successful can carry unseen pain. Drew's journey showed that sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is to let go of the things they once loved most. In doing so, he rediscovered what truly mattered: peace, humility, and gratitude. Today, Drew Pritchard remains one of the most respected figures in the world of antiques. His eye for design and authenticity changed the way people view restoration. He made it cool to appreciate history, to value craftsmanship, and to see art in imperfection. Salvage Hunters inspired countless viewers to start their own journeys of discovery, to find beauty in what others throw away. But beyond his fame, Drew's greatest legacy is his message about resilience. Life broke him many times, he went through hardship, heartbreak, and disappointment, but he always found a way to rebuild. After stepping back from the spotlight, Drew Pritchard began to rebuild his life in a way no one expected, quietly, patiently, and away from fame. The man who once traveled across Europe for antique deals now preferred the calmness of small moments. He often spent mornings walking through the countryside near his home, surrounded by the misty hills of North Wales. Nature became his new companion, and silence his greatest comfort. Drew once said that every antique carries a story, and perhaps now he was learning that people do too. Stories of love, loss, failure, and healing. Life after television wasn't easy. He had to adjust to being away from the cameras and constant excitement. For someone who had lived years in front of millions, the sudden quiet could feel strange, even painful. But in that quiet, Drew began to understand himself better. He realized how much of his life had been spent chasing perfection, the perfect deal, the perfect restoration, the perfect image. Yet like the antiques he loved, he too had cracks and flaws. Instead of hiding them, he learned to accept them. This acceptance became his real restoration project, fixing not objects, but his own spirit. He started spending more time in his workshop again, but this time without deadlines or filming schedules. He restored items simply for the love of it, not to sell or to show. Each repaired chair or polished lamp became a symbol of his recovery. As he worked with his hands, the noise in his mind began to fade. Slowly, Drew was healing, not through fame or fortune, but through peace and solitude. Looking back, Drew's journey is filled with lessons that reach far beyond antiques. His life shows how passion can build empires, and how pride can quietly break them. From the outside, many saw him as lucky, a man who turned his hobby into a TV success story. But behind the scenes, Drew's success came from decades of hard work, long hours, and painful sacrifices. He never had an easy start, yet he never gave up. Every setback only made him stronger. Even when business slowed or personal struggles took over, he found ways to keep going. Drew often said that the best treasures are not the most expensive ones, but those with history and heart. That idea reflected his own life. He too was full of history, mistakes, and emotion. People admired him not just for his skill, but for his humanity. He showed that success doesn't mean being perfect. It means being passionate, real, and willing to start over again and again. One of the biggest lessons from Drew's story is about balance. In chasing success, he lost touch with what truly mattered: family, peace, and happiness. But in losing everything, he discovered those things again. His story teaches us that no matter how far we go, life always finds a way to bring us back to what's real. The fame that once defined him eventually faded, but the legacy he built of honesty, craftsmanship, and resilience remains stronger than ever. Before Salvage Hunters, few television shows focused on the art of restoration and the beauty of antiques. Drew Pritchard changed that forever. He made restoration exciting, emotional, and meaningful. He taught viewers that history isn't just found in museums. It can be found in a rusty gate, an old sign, or a forgotten piece of wood. His passion gave life to objects that were once abandoned, and in doing so, he changed how people saw value. The show didn't just make antiques popular, it inspired a movement. After watching Drew travel through barns, scrapyards, and estates, people around the world began exploring their own towns, searching for hidden treasures. Old items that once sat collecting dust suddenly found new homes. People began restoring, recycling, and reusing.